With racing season coming to a close here in Indiana, please enjoy this how-to content until we can get going next spring. So I've got a lighting issue on the Trans Am. The front driver's side DRL turn signal, I noticed it was out. When you turn the lights on, the headlight comes on, so I thought it was the socket for the DRL, which is a common problem. They get corrosion and need to be replaced. If the inside of your DRL socket looks like this one, it probably will need to be replaced, especially if your light is not working. This is actually the factory one that I took off many years ago off the passenger side, but was not working. I clipped all the wires off of it so I would know it was bad. But as you can see, the inside of it looks a little almost burnt or corroded, or a little of both. And if I remember right, the bulb was stuck in there pretty good. So yeah, it needed replaced. So I replaced it, and I even replaced the bulb. No change, no turn signal bulb. So I didn't have a left side turn signal in the front. And then when I would turn the turn signal on, all the lights would flash on the dash and the driving lights would flash. So I thought maybe it was a flasher, so I tried a new flasher. Nope. So I'm thinking it's either the turn signal switch in the column, which isn't quite as smooth as it should be since I had to change the lock cylinder. I don't believe I got it put back together right. So maybe something is worn in there. Or it's the taillight harness. When I put sequential taillight kit on here many years ago, maybe something is worn in there. So I'm going to go back to the stock taillight functions, because the sequential thing isn't a big deal to me. I'd rather have reliability. So I bought a used taillight harness from Trans Am Creations on eBay, and I'm going to put that in right now. The harness came wrapped up very nice and packaged very well, and I'm ready to get it open. The 98 through 02 harness differs from the 93 through 97 for the bulb socket type. This one here is a 98 through 02. Alright, we've got the taillights and center panel off, and the lights unplugged, and the harness is exposed and ready to be removed. If you have smaller hands like I have, you can actually reach in here and get to the socket on the DRL light and turn it and pop it out, and then you can pull it right out here. Or if you're needing to replace it, there's a panel underneath here you can loosen and drop down, and you can get to more of the wiring. It's a little easier to splice that way. But be sure when you do splice to please seal up everything really good, either with shrink sleeve tubing, or wrap it really well with electrical tape, and then cover it back with the plastic convoluted tubing, because you don't want it to get wet, or you'll be right back to square one with a bad light and replacing something. Here's some footage of some of the troubleshooting I did, and some shots of the used taillight harness installed. Like I've mentioned, the turn signals were just not right whatsoever, and all the dash lights would flash when I would turn on the left turn signal. So when I was monkeying around with that here in the garage, I got to a no start condition where the car wouldn't even turn over or nothing, and I thought maybe I had really screwed up something then. And come to find out, if you run into that situation, pull this panel here, access this fuse box, and it is this 10 amp fuse right here marked. It's marked gauges on the back here. If that fuse blows, the car will not start. Alright, now I've had a turn signal issue that appeared right before the Trans Am Nationals, and I was, very anxious the whole trip over there, because when you would turn the left turn signal on, all the dash lights would flash and other turn signal lights would just stay on, or they would blink. The right side turn signals worked fine. I thought it was a socket, the light socket in the driver's side front, because they're known for corroding. I've already replaced the passenger side previously. When I replaced the passenger side daytime running lamp socket, the car was still fairly new, maybe a couple years old at that time, so a knockoff version was not yet available, and I was forced to buy a AC Delco unit from my local dealership, and I think it cost me like $60. Thankfully, you can now find a much cheaper knockoff at any major chain auto parts store. So I went to the store and bought one, put it in, no change. So I traced all the wiring down, checked all my grounds. I know all the lights worked. There is a daytime running light module box that is behind the radio, which I will show you here in a minute. When I unplugged it, my rear turn signals worked just fine. They didn't both flash like they had previously, so I thought maybe there was a short in that box. Well, you can't find a new one unless you want to spend like $500 for one. So I bought a used one on eBay for $67, I think. It was worth a shot, So it came from California, arrived just a few minutes ago today when I got home. It was here. So I plugged it in, no change. So then I'm like, okay, the last thing I changed was that socket. So I took an old socket off of my old taillight harness that I kept, wired it up, and the damn thing works. It was that brand new socket was bad. What the fuck? So it wasn't this motherfucker. It was just fine. So I've got a spare now, I guess. And down the road if it comes loose. It was the goddamn socket that I bought at the local auto parts store. As you can see, I will turn this on, and before, all these dash lights would just blink like the turn signal was on. And I'll step out of here. And okay, just the driver's side's flashing like it should. Just the driver's side's flashing like it should. The daytime running lamp is on the other side. And I've already checked it with the headlights on. It works fine. So it was that fucking socket right there. This was nothing more than some self-satisfaction. The faulty socket that I had just bought that gave me all this grief, and some gasoline and a candle lighter, and you have what you are watching right now. I set it off fire. Alright, we're here at Harbor Freight Tools. I'm gonna get a heat gun so I can put some shrink sleeving on the turn signal wiring so it will not take on any moisture. So let's go inside. We've made our heat gun purchase, as you saw, and now we're heading home. Now, chances are, when you buy your aftermarket socket, the wiring is going to be all the same color or different colors that are not like factory. Now, this one here on the left is factory, and the colors are green, brown, and black. And then this one here on the right is the replacement, and all the wires are white. And actually, the AC Delco replacement one that I had used many years ago, all the wires were white. And most recently, aftermarket one I've used, all the wires were black. So just make sure you have the socket oriented the same direction as the one that you're about to replace. And then my suggestion would be to clip and reconnect each wire one at a time. That way you'll make sure you get them back in the right order and your light will function properly. Well, here we are one step closer. We're getting the wiring for the turn signals tidied back up. The DRLs are back together. Now I need to put the taillights in and I can play with this one.